It was just past 11 p.m. when I passed mile marker 313 on Highway 47, heading north toward Reading. I was alone, fresh off a long shift at the warehouse, barely awake, half a thermos of gas station coffee left in the passenger seat. The road stretched straight ahead, black and empty under a pale moon. Then I saw the girl. She was standing at the edge of the road, barefoot in a white dress, long black hair hanging over her shoulders. She didn't move, didn't wave, just stood still and stared directly at my car as I approached. I slowed instinctively, rolled down the window. "You okay?" No answer. She didn't blink. She just smiled. It wasn't warm. It wasn't scared. It was the kind of smile you see in your nightmares, calm and cruel. I shivered. Something told me to keep driving. So I did. 10 minutes later, I passed mile marker 313 again. I slammed the brakes. I had been going straight. No turns, no exits. But the sign was there, unmistakable, 313. The same twisted tree. The same rusted barbed wire fence on the left. The same girl, standing in the same spot. I drove faster this time. Blamed the lack of sleep. Maybe I imagined the number. Another 10 minutes. Mile marker 313. She was closer to the road now. I checked my GPS. The blue dot spun in place. No signal. I floored the gas. 20 minutes. No stops. No detours. Hands gripping the wheel. I forced myself to keep my eyes on the road. Then my headlights flickered. The radio cut in with static. And then a voice, low and muffled, came through. "Why did you leave me behind?" I turned the radio off. It stayed on. "Don't you remember me?" I yanked the AUX cable. Unplugged the system. The voice continued, clearer now. "You left me to die." I looked in the rearview mirror. She was in the back seat. Eyes black. Mouth stitched shut with thread. Blood soaking her white dress. Hands folded in her lap like a corpse in a coffin. I screamed. Swerved off the road. Slammed into a ditch. When I woke, it was morning. A highway patrol officer stood over me. "Car flipped," he said. "You're lucky." I looked at the road. Mile marker 314 stood just ahead. Was there anyone else? A girl. He looked puzzled. "There hasn't been anyone on this stretch of road for hours. Just you." I was treated and released. Weeks passed. Then I started seeing her again. In reflections. On random road trips. Behind the glass at a truck stop. Once, walking past a closed motel window in a town I'd never been to. Always barefoot. Always smiling. I did some digging. In 1983, a girl named Rachel Anderson went missing along Highway 47. Last seen near mile marker 313 after arguing with her boyfriend during a road trip. He claimed she ran into the woods. She was never found. The boyfriend? He died in a car wreck 2 years later. At mile marker 313, they say if you see her once, she'll keep following. Until you take her with you. And now she waits. Every time I hit the highway alone, I see her. At the edge of my vision. Smiling. Waiting for me to stop. I never believed in ghost stories. Until I drove Route 56 on a moonless night and watched them unfold. It began around 1:13 a.m., just as I crossed the state line and passed the old rusty sign for Rest Stop 22. I'd planned to pull over, stretch my legs, grab a coffee from the vending machine. Anything to shake off the weariness of driving 8 hours straight. I turned off the highway onto the gravel access road. Headlights cut through the inky darkness, illuminating cracked pavement, dead weeds, and the familiar skeleton of the rest area. A single, shuttered restroom building, 3 picnic tables with rotted planks, and a twisted metal payphone booth that hadn't worked since the 90s. I parked near the entrance, killed the engine, and stepped outside. The air was too still. No breeze rustled the weeds, no insects chirped, no distant rumble of tires. Complete silence. My breath came out clouded in frost, though the forecast had promised a mild night. I walked toward the building under a flickering sodium lamp. Its bulb buzzed and stuttered like a dying gasp, then flared bright, then went dark. I reached for my phone, no signal. Of course, this was the middle of nowhere. The payphone booth caught my eye. A single sheet of paper taped beneath the handset, "Do not use after midnight." Beneath the warning someone had scrawled in dripping red ink, "Or they'll answer." I laughed, probably just graffiti from bored teenagers. But my skin prickled. I pressed my palm against the cool metal of the booth. The handset lay in the cradle as if waiting. I reached out, hesitated, then snapped a photo of the sign. The shutter snapped loudly in the quiet. A voice, low, raspy, whispered, "Answer it." I spun. No one there. Just the empty road stretching back to the highway. The sodium lamp buzzed again, then cut out, plunging me into darkness so complete I couldn't see my own hands. I jumped back into the truck and locked the doors. Heart hammering, I tried the key fob, no click. The lock stayed shut. The payphone suddenly sprung to life. The receiver lifted itself, metal handle clunking against the booth's side, then rattled softly. The line on the payphone box rang 1, 2, then a harsh click before the handset slammed down on its own. My radio sputtered, blasting static, then formed a single word, "Hello." The speaker crackled. "Let me in." I yanked the gear shift into drive and tore out of the lot, tires spinning on loose gravel. The sodium lamp flickered out behind me just as the engine roared to life. Back on the highway, I glanced in the mirror. In the distant reflection, I saw the rest area. Only now it looked brand new. Freshly painted signs, stocked vending machines, pristine picnic tables, then vanished behind a wall of dark trees. My headlights cut through the gloom. There was no sign of Rest Stop 22. I slowed, pulled onto the shoulder, and checked my GPS. It read no rest area ahead. Mile markers flicked backward. 23, 22, 21. I watched 22 roll by on the dashboard display. Parked. I'd driven forward, but somehow circled back. The digital clock blinked from 1:14 a.m. to 1:13 again. Panicked, I sped forward. The highway curved through a narrow canyon. Rock walls loomed on both sides. At the curve's apex, a figure stood. A woman in a tattered white dress, drenched as though she'd come out of a storm. She raised a hand, beckoning. Her features were gaunt, her eyes black pits reflecting my headlights. I slammed the brakes. My rig fishtailed but came to rest mere feet from her. I gunned the engine, fishtailing again, and barreled past. She didn't move, just watched as I passed. Then she was gone. 100 yards later, a second rest stop appeared, new, modern, lit by bright LEDs. The sign read Rest Stop 22. I gasped. The payphone booth was gone, replaced by security cameras and a sparkling coffee shop. The doors slid open on their own. I stopped. My forearm brushed the passenger door handle, and it buzzed painfully, as if alive. Through the glass, I saw dozens of figures, leaning in the shadows. Men, women, children, all pale and gaunt. Their eyes were hollow, mouths whispered in unison. "Answer it." The automatic doors clicked shut an instant later. Fear clawed at my chest. I threw the truck into reverse, but instead of pulling away, the rearview camera showed the rest area growing larger, as though the world was folding in on itself. The transmission clicked between gears but refused to accelerate. Then a single scream echoed from the coffee shop, so visceral it echoed in my bones. I slammed the truck in drive again, tires screeching. The highway reappeared, no rest area, no lights, no street signs, but the odometer read 22.2 miles. I hadn't traveled that far. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Come back. We're waiting." Hands shaking, I threw my phone to the floorboard. The radio burst to life. "Let me in. Let me in." The voice sounded like my own, twisted and fractured. I stamped the accelerator. The engine roared. Finally, I cleared the thorny canyon and saw the highway lights ahead. Mile marker 23 blinked by. Mile 24. Mile 25. My rig surged forward as if released from a vice. I didn't look back. When I pulled into the next town's truck stop at 2:05 a.m., I backed against the wall and sat in stunned silence. The interstate sign read, "Rest Stop 22. Exit 22, 10 miles. 10 miles? Highway stats said 22 miles. My head spun. I thought it was over until I saw her in the window reflection. The woman from the white dress, pressed against the glass, mouth open in a scream, eyes gleaming. Then she was gone. In the restroom mirror, carved into the tile in what looked like dried coffee spills, were the words, "You can't leave." It was supposed to be a straight shot through the Nevada desert. I'd driven this route before, empty, long stretches of blacktop with only heat mirages and the occasional tumbleweed for company. But something changed that night I passed mile marker 313. I was hauling a flatbed from Reno to Phoenix, uneventful cargo, just scrap machinery. I left late, which meant I'd be crossing the loneliest stretch of the highway sometime after midnight. I wasn't worried. I'd done this route dozens of times. But at exactly 12:13 a.m., my dashboard GPS froze. The screen turned a sickly green, blinking rapidly before cutting to black. My radio fizzled out. Then came the static. Low at first, then louder, like someone breathing directly into the speakers. The odometer showed 313 miles driven. Then suddenly, everything cut off. No lights, no power. I coasted to a stop. When I turned the key, the engine sputtered once, twice, then clicked like a dead battery. Total silence. The only light came from my headlights slowly dimming as the battery drained. I opened the cab door and stepped out. The air was heavy. That's the only way I can explain it. Like walking into a room full of invisible smoke. I could feel pressure on my skin. There were no stars in the sky. No moon. Only pitch darkness swallowing the desert around me. I grabbed my flashlight and started walking toward the mile marker sign I had passed. I figured I could use it to triangulate my location if I needed to call for help later. But when I reached it, the number wasn't 313 anymore. It said 0. Just a white 0 on black metal. I stared at it for a moment, confused, then turned around to head back to the truck. But it was gone. Completely. The road was empty. Just blacktop stretching endlessly in both directions. My flashlight flickered and dimmed. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. Not hurried, not sneaky, just steady, deliberate. I spun around. Nothing, just desert and highway. I pointed the light in every direction. Still nothing. But the footsteps kept coming. Closer. I broke into a run. The kind of blind run that comes from pure panic. My lungs screamed. My flashlight died. The only thing I could hear now was the sound of someone, or something, matching my pace. And then, headlights. I turned and saw a semi-truck. My semi-truck, idling on the side of the road, engine humming softly. The cab lights were on. Door wide open. I sprinted toward it, jumped in, and slammed the door shut. But it wasn't my truck. Inside, everything looked older. Dusty gauges, cracked leather seats, and a strange smell like burnt oil and mildew. The radio clicked on by itself and played a low, garbled voice. "You never should have stopped at 313. I tried to start the engine. It roared, then idled with a sick mechanical growl. The headlights cut through the black, revealing someone standing directly in front of the truck. It was me, or someone who looked exactly like me. Same face, same clothes, same ball cap, except his eyes were black. No iris, no whites, just pits of shadow. He smiled, then lifted his hand and pointed to the cab. The door behind me creaked open on its own. A hand grabbed my shoulder, ice cold and heavy. I spun around and found the passenger seat empty. I stomped on the gas. The truck lurched forward, plowing through the figure in the road, but nothing was there. No body, no resistance, just emptiness. I drove as fast as I could, not daring to look in the mirrors. But I could see shapes flickering in the reflection of the windshield. Dark figures pacing alongside the cab, keeping up, just outside the corner of my eye. The GPS came back on. Location, mile marker 313. Time, 12:13 a.m. It had reset. Again. I drove for what felt like hours. The road never changed. No gas stations. No other vehicles. Just that same stretch of blacktop and sand. The sun never rose. The sky never changed. The digital clock on the dash blinked. 12:13, 12:13, 12:13. I was stuck, caught in a loop. Then came the second truck. Passed me on the left going slow. Identical flatbed. Same cargo. Same license plate. The driver looked at me, and he was me again. Except this time his skin was peeling. His eyes oozed black fluid. And he mouthed 3 words as he passed. "You are dead." I screamed and swerved, but the second truck vanished into the darkness like it had never existed. My radio clicked again. A voice, not mine, but deep and gravelly, said, "You're not on the highway anymore." I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. All around me the desert shimmered and changed. The road cracked like glass. The sky turned red. The ground split in jagged lines, bleeding a thick black tar. Shapes crawled from the cracks. Spindly, hunched things with pale skin and eyeless faces. They surrounded the truck, tapping on the windows. Their mouths never moved, but I heard their voices in my head. "Stay with us." I closed my eyes, pressed my forehead against the wheel, whispered prayers. Anything. And then suddenly daylight. A horn blared behind me. I shot up. I was parked on the shoulder just past mile marker 313. My truck was fine. Engine running. Radio playing soft country music. I checked the GPS. Showed I was only 15 miles from the next fuel station. The time read 7:42 a.m. I had no memory of the last 6 hours. No signs of damage on the truck. Just one thing, carved into the dashboard in jagged lines. "You left US. We'll follow." And since that day, every time I pass mile marker 313, the GPS freezes. The clock blinks 12:13 a.m., and I hear someone breathing on the radio. I drive nights, always have. Something about the emptiness of the highway, the hum of the tires, and the cold silence appeals to me. No traffic, no distractions, just miles and miles of blacktop. But in all my years driving freight across the country, one night on Route 91 in Arizona burned itself into my mind in a way I'll never shake. I wish it was just a nightmare, but it wasn't. It was a long, dead stretch between 2 ghost towns. The kind of place where even the animals don't make a sound, where cell signals vanish and the stars blink like they're watching. I'd left Flagstaff late, hauling refrigeration equipment. My plan was to push through the night, take the back highway to avoid closures, and stop at a diner I knew about 60 miles south. Everything was fine for the first hour. Cool breeze, quiet radio, clear road. But then I saw him. At first, he was just a figure in the distance, standing in the breakdown lane, not moving, head slightly tilted. It's not totally uncommon to see stranded drivers or hitchhikers at night, so I slowed a bit. But as I got closer, the figure didn't step forward, wave, or do anything. He just stood there, and then I noticed something was wrong. He was too tall. Not by a little either. Maybe 7 feet or more, with shoulders that hung strangely low and arms that looked like they went past his knees. He wore a dark coat, maybe a duster or trench, but it didn't move with the breeze. Just hung on him like it was nailed to his body. His face, what little I could see, was pale and long. No hair, eyes like polished stone. I drove past him, and as my headlights hit him full on, he smiled. Not a normal smile. It stretched too wide, revealing too many teeth. I didn't stop. My eyes flicked to the mirror. He was gone. Not behind me, not walking, just vanished. I told myself it was fatigue, a trick of the light. Maybe a weird scarecrow someone put up to mess with travelers. I turned up the radio, sipped my coffee, and drove on. 10 minutes passed. Then he was ahead of me again. Same exact spot. Standing just off the road. Head tilted. Smiling. I braked hard this time, skidding a little on the shoulder. There was no way he could have gotten ahead of me. No side roads. No vehicles. Just empty desert. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. Adrenaline spiking. I shined it toward him. Gone. I swept the beam across the brush. Nothing. Silence. The air felt colder. I could feel something watching me. The kind of feeling you don't mistake once you've known it. I jumped back in the cab and hit the gas. No more music. No more coffee. Just drive. About 30 minutes later, I passed an old, rusted road sign barely clinging to its post. I slowed to read it. Welcome to Bell's End Pop Zero. Bell's End was a mining town that was abandoned after a collapse in the late 70s. I'd heard of it but never visited. The road was supposed to go straight through it. As I entered, the temperature dropped again. Like seriously dropped. I could see my breath inside the cab. The radio cut to static, then went silent. Every building I passed was broken. Hollow windows, caved-in roofs. But as I rolled through what used to be the main street, I saw the streetlights flicker on. All of them, one by one, lighting up the ghost town. And then there he was again, standing in the middle of the road, under the flickering yellow light. I slammed the brakes. The truck groaned and stopped just feet from him. I laid on the horn. Nothing. He didn't flinch, didn't move, just stood there with that awful smile. I wasn't going to get out this time. I shifted into reverse and started backing up slowly. That's when he ran toward me. Not human running. Not natural. He dropped to all fours like a spider and sprinted toward the cab, too fast for something his size. I threw it into drive and floored it. Tires screamed. The truck lurched forward. I clipped him. At least I think I did. But when I looked back, he was clinging to the back of my trailer. I swerved hard. No use. He held on. The engine growled. The road blurred. I pushed 90 through a winding 2-lane highway, praying he'd fall. Then I hit the bridge. A narrow, wooden overpass that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. My headlights caught the weathered sign as I approached. Cross over and leave him behind. I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't slow down. As soon as the truck hit the bridge, I heard screaming. Not from me, from the thing. The scream was metallic, deep, like tearing steel mixed with a man's voice. I looked in the mirror and saw him writhing, slipping off the back. He vanished just before I cleared the bridge. And then nothing. The truck purred calmly. The radio came back, playing an old country song. The cold lifted. The night returned to normal. I reached the diner at dawn, hands still shaking. The waitress, Marlene, looked me over and said, "You took the old Bell's End pass, didn't you?" I nodded. She poured my coffee and said, "You're lucky. Most don't come back after seeing him. They get stuck out there. Just like he did." I asked her who he was. Used to be a drifter. Hitched rides on that stretch of highway. Killed a trucker who wouldn't stop for him. Locals found the body in his rig. Eyes ripped out, spine snapped. Folks say the drifter died crossing the bridge trying to get away from what he'd done. Now he waits, looks for trucks to ride. If you stop, he gets in. She leaned closer. "You didn't stop, did you?" I lied. "No." Marlene smiled without humor. "Good. He never forgets who lets him in. That was 5 years ago. I haven't driven Route 91 since. But every now and then, my truck radio cuts to static at 1:13 a.m., and I catch a glimpse of a figure in the rearview mirror. Smiling. Still waiting.